Today we're going to be doing part 2 of a technique I learned from Suzanne Dean on the Scandinavian influence, distress inking using Copic alcohol ink markers. We're using the little tilde with rose lace dress on it. Any magnolia image would be just perfect. And for my colors, I'm going to be using V01, V000. Don't have my V0000, so I'm going to do a tip to tip with my V000, my colorless splendor. And for the corners, I'm going to be doing a W1, the one correlating to the V01. The one on the end of my shadow, I like to do my shadow with my gray tone with that same last number. And to recap last week's, there are 3 things I think about with distressed inking, and that is, number 1, the outer edges are very dark. Number 2, there's a warm gray pooling of color, as Suzanne Dean used to refer to it as, in the very corners. And we'll be using our W for that warm gray color in the corners. And number 3, there is a lot of white in the Scandinavian influenced distress inking. They have a lot of very light color in their images. Many times our midtones will constitute about 2/3 to 3/4 of our image. But with distress inking, it's the highlight that has that much color. Now, I would normally be using a V quadruple 0, but I don't know where that is, so I'm doing a tip-to-tip method. And that is taking a lighter color and touching it to the darker color. That's called tip-to-tip, or you can bridge your colors with that technique. If you're missing a particular midtone, it works great to bridge. In this case, I'm not bridging, I'm using it to create my lighter tone, my V0000. You can see I put in my W1 in the corners and the very deepest recesses of that fold. And I guess when I'm thinking of distress inking, I'm going for a little bit of that color on the edges or corners, for like Tim Holtz did for distressed ink vintage photo. You know, when you sponge that on the corners when you're distressing some of your cards, that's kind of the color we're going for on those very corners or the deepest recess of a fold. And now we're going to do that same process with the hat. We're basically using the same process we used for the face, the skin tones. Only we're using a different set of colors. I wanted to share with you that when you do that tip-to-tip method, you really are not going to ruin your lighter color. When you touch a lighter color of your Copic to a darker color, to either bridge a color or, in my case, to go toward a lighter color shade, I am not going to be ruining my lighter Copic. You can just wipe it off and it will return to normal in the brush portion of your nib. Again, I'm putting in that little pooling area there in the corners with my warm gray color, my W1. Putting my shadow on top of that area, flicking a little toward the highlight, and then moving toward my mid-tone, and then doing my tip to tip. in place of what would be my quadruple, my V quadruple, 0. If you look at the very tip of that nib, you can see that it's time for me to refill my V000 as well. Remember, a couple weeks ago we talked about refilling your Copic when that tip starts to get a little on the light whitish color. So it's time to refill my V000. It's a good little refresher. And again, tip to tip. Always light to dark, never dark to light. Again, darkening those little corner areas a little more, making a little bit more of that vintage color. And then blending out. Again, being very careful when you blend out to not be going too much into the light highlight. Again, Distress Inking has a lot of light color. And there you have it. I hope you give this a try. It's so much fun, and all the magnolia images are like so perfect for this technique. Thank you for watching. I hope you give it a big thumbs up, that you share, and that you subscribe.